Amazing. And if you're listening, I am going to have Brittany's contact information on the bottom of this video, so feel free to reach out to her. What are some of the key strategies that you're telling people to do right now for their long-term wealth plan?
I think there's a lot of popularity around some strategies that you'll see on TikTok and Facebook and just literally everywhere. But the problem with giving blanket statement advice is it's exactly that. You don't know what's going on in people's portfolios. For me to say, hey, this is a great strategy for everybody is absolutely false. So falling into that trap, I think, is a big no-no. It's important to sit down with somebody and really look to see what opportunity presents for them, because their goals are much different than the next person's. So customizing a plan is really key. I do think that there's some tax advantage strategies out there that could complement anyone's portfolios. A lot of them tie into, having some life insurance to allow for tax-free growth. Not all of them are created equal, however. So you want to vet out the process for sure. There's companies that offer maybe the title of the account is the same, but the internal components of how it works are entirely different. So even of the 315 companies that I get to shop, that are A or A plus rated, even between the top 5, each of those accounts in each category are entirely different from the next. So it's important to understand, where are you today? Where do you want to be? And what are some things that we need to consider on the way there? Are you already saving? Have you never saved? There's just so many variables that you have to really be creative in your planning. And that's where someone else comes in. Like I said, leveraging a financial professional that looks at this stuff day in and day out is going to be in your favor. So it's difficult to say, this is the best thing that's out, but there's some popular strategies out there. There's some that, like I said, studying the wealthy is key. If you take your money and, you put it into a place of, if $1 trillion company, or if an executive of a publicly traded company with tons of money is putting their money in some place, I think my money is good enough to go there.
Right? Certainly a good indicator. But what would you say to someone who's 40, 50, 55, 60, maybe they've lost it all for whatever reason, divorce or hardship, or where they've never got started? Is it too late to start over or to start it all? Is that
Never too late. I tell my clients this too, because I see this a lot. Like I said, 33% of people have no retirement savings. So you're not alone. I would encourage you, however, to start. It's kind of like the analogy the old time analogy they use that says, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today, right? So the longer you wait, the more challenging it gets. And it's really a test of time. So the time value of money is going to be huge. I actually have a chart that I provide my clients that shows, if you're 20 years old, you want $1 million by the age of 67, you only need $113 a month and a 9% interest rate to get you there. When you're 50 years old, that 173, it turns into $2,008 per month. So this is a math problem. If you don't have a ton of time, you just need to make more money. And for most people, it is an income issue. Even for me, I hadn't saved when I was younger, and like 5 years ago, I became a client. I started learning this for myself, became an advisor shortly after seeing the differences it made for me. Really wanted to just give back the experience that I had been provided. So I would say the longer you wait, the more it will cost you. And so just getting into something and starting to save your money is super important.
Right. You give me so much to think about too. And it's very funny that you just gave that example of, it was $113 a month as a 20-year-old, because I was thinking exactly that. I wanted to ask you that question because I wanted you to tell people that. And, I was just talking to a young person the other day, and he's like, oh no, I'm going to take care of other stuff first. Like, I'm going to pay off my debt. And it's like, dude, it's $113 a month, right? And God, most of those kids are still living at home. It's like, have 1 or 2 less meals a week, bro.
That's right.
Right? Stop eating out. Don't, Uber Eats and DoorDash. Just go get it yourself.
Right.
Because everyone wants to be a millionaire, but no one wants to do what it takes, even when it's easy. I shouldn't say no one. There's just a lot of resistance, everyone wants, but no one wants to do. or few want to do.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I always say if somebody had told me when I was 16 and I was 15 when I got my first job, I probably wouldn't have listened. But I mean, knowing what I know now, I just want to go back and like shake my old self and be like, man, you should have just done $25 a week. Who can't do that? Who cannot do that? So, I mean, it's wild, especially as you age, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. And so most people, like you said, have the mindset of, hey, I can't save until I pay off my debt. And I adopted that when I was younger as well. And so for 9 years, I rid myself of the opportunity to save money because I was under my head in debt. Once I learned really how money truly works, I flipped the switch and thought, man, I got to save and pay off debt at the same time, because the essence of time working for me is far more valuable than getting rid of this debt right now. So that's where the pay yourself first comes in. And for me, it was hard to wrap my head around because I thought, well, how am I going to pay myself first if I'm living paycheck to paycheck? So that's a really difficult strategy to look at. But again, just truly learning how it works is important. There's always going to be a wedding or a car to buy or a college to pay for or a house that you just purchased or you're having a child or, there's always something that's going to seem as if it's more daunting, but your future is number one. Unless you want to work for the rest of your life, God willing, I hope you're able if that's the case. But
Right.
what if health is rid from you? Have you prepared for that?
Right.
So there's just so many things that can stand in your way, and it's great to be proactive.
And from my perspective, I would like to be able to work for the rest of my life. I think you live longer, but you can't maintain the hours, and you don't want to, right? Because you want to enjoy life as you get older. And what if you can't work anymore? You're exactly right. And no one can predict that. No one can predict that. Something could, it could be genetic. You could catch something, you could get hit by a vehicle. God forbid. I'm not wishing that on anybody, but you just don't know. And from my perspective, right, the thing I worry about more than anything is being a burden on my children. I don't want to be a burden on them, right? When I go or, I want to make sure I have left something for them to build upon, right? And I think that that's how you build a wealthy society, right? Most people who do well had parents that took care of them. They prepared for them, right? And they, of course, hopefully they didn't spoil the crap out of them, right? So that they just spend it all, they reinvest it. But that's what I want to do. And people keep asking me, why do you own a business? Why are you building your business? I do it because I want to leave a legacy for my children and my grandchildren, because I am genuinely concerned that the nature of wealth and money and how we are able to make it today will not exist in 20 years. That there may come a time where there is a pause, where there is a recovery from whatever, whether it's war, a financial disaster, or famine, or pandemics. I'm not a big fan of the current description, but a real pandemic could come. A real one could come. There's so many things, right? And if you had the ability to take care of your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren beyond your lifespan, wouldn't you want to do that? And that's what motivates me. And everyone's going to have a different motivator. Some people want the expensive cars, knock yourself out.
Right. I think everybody has different goals. I sit down with people that's not their concern. They want to take care of themselves and they think that everyone's in it for themselves, and that's fine. Then there's some people that are like, hey, I want to have the money just in case, but I don't want to advertise it. And then others are like, no, everything I've worked for, I want to give back to other people. So definitely different perspectives, but all of that still starts with you. So you've got to take care of you and really position yourself so that you can provide should you choose to do that. So I think that's the biggest thing is, don't wait. It's
right.
But I don't think that things are going to get any easier in the future. So like you said, there's just so many challenges and things that could come up. So now is the time to prepare.
I think even the worst possible outcome comes that some people in fear of are survivable. And I think there are too many indicators not to be careful right now. Like, you need to be saving your money. You need to be a little bit more frugal. You need to invest. I've heard for 30 years about, oh, if this happens, the housing markets could go down and that could cause a recession. If this happens, the stock market could crash and then there could be a recession. Or if gas prices go up too much, that could cause a recession, right? Or inflation, that's all happening at once. We're not talking one thing. All these factors are converging right now, and they're all going to happen next year, right? Does that necessarily mean doom and gloom? No. But it means things might get a little harder than you want them to be, and you're better off being prepared, you know? Am I saying, do you need to stockpile food? Wouldn't be a bad idea. But on the other hand, you know, you probably shouldn't be eating out every night. You know, now I'm being a hypocrite because I do. I should add that into my spoiledness, right? Because I don't buy expensive cars, but I eat out a lot. I do eat out a lot.
Vices.
Right. So, all right, if you knew somebody who's a young person, right, and they're just getting their life started, and they're like, wow, I want to put a lot of money away, but I want to start a business, and it's kind of hard to do both, what would you tell them?
I would say wealthy people utilize other people's money. And so there are creative ways to finance your business. Leveraging healthy debts is an idea. There are so many different approaches. It just kind of depends what you're looking at, because every business is designed differently. So if you're in a product pushing business, that's going to be different than someone who's in a position like myself, where I don't have any inventory. I'm sitting down and providing guidance, you know, in a financial setting. So there's no overhead in my business. So everything is different. And that's, again, where planning comes in. But I would say you can't go wrong saving your money. I do want to clarify too, the term investment, I think, is used very loosely. And for anyone listening to this, like, I think that it's important to understand investment does not necessarily mean it's in the stock market. And so you can get some rates of return, you can get some higher growth, but there's almost $10 trillion, 10 trillion with a T, sitting in bank accounts right now, or accounts that are averaging less than 1%. And so if you could truly just move some of your money as you save it into a vehicle that's going to perform a little bit better for you, doesn't necessarily mean it rids you of liquidity, doesn't mean that you don't have access to it. But there's a lot of different opportunities out there. And that's, again, where financial education comes in. So there's so many perspectives and beliefs. I stick to the mathematical approach. I like to know that numbers make sense. But as far as starting out a brand new business, you're going to have some capital of some sort. So do save the money, but also know that there's other options. There's SBA loans. There's all kinds of things that you can access that are healthy debts to leverage and get yourself up and running. And there's plenty of people in the community, especially with that Dream 25, that would assist you or help you in navigating funding. There's so many opportunities out there.
Right. You know, said so much again, and now I get a zillion questions. I think you're right. So would you talk about the term investments being loose. So you would probably not classify an engagement ring as an investment, right? That's like the line you go in there. It's an investment. It's like, if I'm going to take like 90 days of my money and put it in something, it's not going to be a stone that I put on another woman's finger.
No, to me, an investment is something that yields a return. You know, you want to put your money and invest into appreciating assets, not something that is going to depreciate or, you know, potentially go into a tangible object.
Right. You know, the other thing that bothers me a lot, that people keep saying that, oh, when you buy a house, it's an investment. It's hard to quantify owning a house because you're going to live there. And if you move, you're going to move with it. Maybe at the end of your life, it'll yield a return for your children, right? If you haven't prepared for your retirement, you can take a reverse mortgage out on it, but that's a failure of planning. That's not an investment.
Right.
You know, so right. And that is, my business is an investment vehicle for me because it gives me an income and, you know, kind of a retirement opportunity. And I think that's what people have to be thinking about. And so the question I had for you was, do you want to talk about permanent life insurance and how you can borrow against it?
I would love to.
Yes, because I want to learn more about it. I know it's possible.
Yes. So here, I'll start with the misconceptions. There's a lot of videos and things that are floating around on social media that are not accurate. And it
Agreed.
burns my gears like big time. So again, blanket statement information is very difficult when you're talking to a general audience because you don't know what is fit for each person. But I will say that one of the tax advantage strategies to use is life insurance, and in combination or in addition to a cash accumulation vehicle. And so there are things out there that you can leverage. And as you fund it, you can borrow from the cash value. You cannot borrow from the death benefit. People believe, oh, I can put $100 a month into this vehicle and I can borrow from the death benefit. No, you cannot. You can borrow from the death benefit if you have additional coverage or additional riders on there and you have a specific situation that arises. Something like terminal illness or something like a long-term care need. But again, it's not coming from your cash value. So when we talk about, people leveraging money to typically be their own bank and pay themselves back, those are people who are coming into an account with an enormous lump sum. They know that they're going to get some cash value in year one. They'll have access to it. But a lot of those vehicles are long-term vehicles. So there are limitations on the front end, which is ideal if you're looking for retirement so that it stays in there and grows. You don't want to be pulling from it if there's not a need for that. So similar to an emergency fund, you don't want to save money and just start pulling it out because you want to go to Panda Express, like this. So the idea is it's out of sight, out of mind. And so for people who are starting out with a large lump sum, they typically do have more freedoms in their accounts because companies know they're serious and they're going to stick around. But a lot of those accounts, the way that they work is the company will put their money into the market on your behalf and they'll honor performance rates in your account in a separate bucket of money. So They're investment in the market on your behalf. They want to know you're not going to jet in year 5. So they don't get maturity on their money till year 5 or 10. So they've got to kind of put limitations on what you can access as well. But typically, when you go into it with quite a bit of money, you have a lot more of the access and the freedoms. Whereas, like I said, someone starting out, it doesn't necessarily work that way. So I did have a business partner of mine who had a client during COVID pull out about 67 grand in his account. What was beautiful about that was he was out of his surrender period, so there was no penalties or anything to pull the money, pulls it out, utilizes it to build a pool for his children, and then pays himself back. And the benefit of doing that, of paying yourself back, because that's not a requirement, the benefit of paying yourself back is all the money that was invested prior to is in these little growth buckets. You borrowed the money from it and stripped it from the growth buckets, but as you pay it, it falls right back into those segments.
And don't you pay interest on that as well to recoup the lost interest that you would have gotten? No? Okay.
So there's a lot of benefit in that. It's as if it never happened if you pay yourself back. So that's the beauty of it. And that's why they say be your own bank, because that gentleman couldn't have gone to the bank and gotten, a 0% interest loan on 67 grand. So he leveraged his own money that had grown and compounded for himself to pay for his expense and paid himself back. So I would not mind going into that. Like I said, there's a lot of different companies that structure things a lot differently than others, but for the most part, that's typically how that works. I would say real estate, I think hard assets are important to have for diversification, but if you look at the actual growth on that versus what you can find in the market, real estate typically year over year averages anywhere from 4 to 6%. And you can definitely outpace rate of inflation with investments more so, which is also why I personally have not purchased a house of my own. I don't want to take on the maintenance. I don't want to take on the upkeep. I don't want to take on all of that. If I can pay the same rate and get into an apartment that I rent, I do see the value of having the equity long term. But again, I would much rather build a profitable business that I can buy cash flow from or acquire a business that I can purchase cash flow. That's where my head.
Wow, so much. We're going to have you on again. And then I'll have more financial questions for you the next time around. I think you're one of my more important guests because you are a business owner, but you also know how money works, right? And so there's definitely more questions and answers I want to mine from your brain.
Thank you.
Yank it out. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Brittany, for bringing the thunder today. Everyone, look for Brittany's contact information below in the video. Certainly, if you have any questions for her, please leave it in the comments section or reach out to her directly. We'll put her email in there. And as always, please be sure to like and comment in the comments section. It really helps us out. Thank you so much, Brittany.
For the opportunity. I appreciate your time.
You're most welcome.